I normally don't review new movies, but Supergirl piqued my interest. And I'm going to start off with this disclaimer. This will have spoilers, but also, when I review films, I don't factor in the box office or any of the comments that people make. So right now, there are a bunch of these different channels, and you can probably infer as to who I'm talking about. They're taking different comments that Millie Alcock has made and, doing loads and loads of videos about it. I'm not here to address any of that because it has nothing to do with the film itself. And I should also say that I was one of the few people, oh, might even been one of the only people, that was more excited for this than last year's Superman film, because I still was annoyed that Man of Steel didn't get a sequel, and last year's Superman was the third solo Superman film that was meant to have sequels, and I just, after Superman Returns and Man of Steel both didn't get any follow-ups, I just kind of rolled my eyes. Whereas with Supergirl, we hadn't had a solo film for that character in 40 years. So I was a lot more curious as to how it would play out. I think Supergirl might be my favorite DC character. And the reason for that is because I've always found it to be really interesting how she's this person with the same powers as Superman who is not as accustomed to Earth because she left Krypton at a much older age, and it was a lot rougher around the edges than her cousin. And I've never really liked any of the adaptations of the character in live action. I really could not stand the CW show, for example, because I felt that they're not representations of Supergirl as I know her from the comics. First things first, she wears her costume for, I don't even think, the last 20 minutes of the movie. And throughout the rest of the film, she's just in regular civilian clothing. Now, a person might say, why is that a big deal? That's an issue of the costuming department. But my thing is, if every single goddamn poster of this movie is going to have her wearing her costume, and then you go into the film and she doesn't wear that for a majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, I think that's false advertising. In fact, I really can't think of many other superhero films besides maybe Iron Man 3, where he's like barely in the armor in that one, and then maybe The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman's only in 30 minutes of a 2.5 hour film. I really can't think of many superhero films where the titular character doesn't wear their costume for at least half the movie. I mean, I would be surprised if she even wears it for a quarter of the film. So that already that's goofy to me. Now, the general plot of the film is that Supergirl is sought out by this girl. I think I'm pronouncing her name's tough because I've only seen the film once and the way it's spelled is weird. I'll call her Ruthie. She's sought out by Ruthie, who wants revenge for Krem killing her family, and Supergirl initially declines until Krem shoots her dog with some poisonous dart that only gives him 3 days to live, and so Supergirl agrees to take her along with her as she tries to get revenge and get the antidote that Krem apparently keeps on hand. Why a person who's dispensing of poison would coincidentally have the antidote on them, I have no idea. And I guess with this film, I have to clarify, I understand the plot, and on paper it makes sense, right? Hero gets sought after by someone else, they're reluctant, then they have a personal stake in the conflict, so they go along with it. Again, none of that in and of itself is an issue for me, but a lot of the concepts of this movie I just think are very like bare bones or underdeveloped. So throughout the movie, Supergirl is really insistent that Ruthie should not kill for revenge. And, of course, during the climax, Ruthie, makes the decision after Supergirl's urging to not take out Krem. But it's like, it would have been so much more interesting, in my opinion, if you had the two of them just kind of getting to know each other. Supergirl kind of asking Ruth, now that your family's gone, what else are you going to do with your life? And, what would you do after succeeding in this? And just kind of trying to, like, position her to sort of seeing a life where she could move on from what happened to her family without killing Krem. And then when you get to the final sequence, where after they've had a few times of just talking and getting to know each other over this hour and a half of screen time, Ruthie deciding to not go through with killing him would come off as more organic because it's something that she's been nudged to by Supergirl over the course of the movie. And the other part of this is that it's stated by Ruthie that Supergirl drowns out her sorrows, through getting drunk over and over, so she doesn't have to feel anything. And that's something else I wish they played with more, right? The idea that people who are afflicted by something and you don't know how to process it will just drink to get, some kind of numbness from the pain that they're constantly in, because it's not really gone over that much. We don't really get to see it from Supergirl's perspective at all. In terms of performances, again, you have people trying to say that Millie Alcock was so great and amazing. She's fine. I kind of view her the same way I view Jonathan Majors with Ant-Man 3, where a lot of people were praising his performance and like, oh, this movie is not that great or not that good, but this actor's really good. It's like, yeah, they're okay. I don't have any reason to believe that they're so much magically above the rest of the film that they're in. You had Jason Momoa, showing up as Lobo. He's in 3 short scenes. You actually could argue he's probably another case of false advertising, because the trailer makes it seem like he's this big part of the movie, but I don't think he was in there for 10 minutes. But all in all, it's a film that is just okay. It's not great. It's one of those movies where, it's like passable. It's cookie cutter. It's the kind of thing where, people would go and see it, but in terms of would they ever be motivated to just, oh, I want to watch this, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. No. I guess the part of this that saddens me is I know Supergirl is a good character. The majority of Marvel and DC characters are. There's a reason why they've been around for, 50, 60, 70 years. And it's unfortunate that whenever you do these adaptations of pre-existing characters, you always have that blueprint of the comics, right, as your source of reference. And even when they make something a direct adaptation of a comic, they still find a way to make it worse or to not make it anywhere near as good as the source material. And that's sad to me, because I just hate the premise that people are going to walk away from this thinking that she's bland or boring or, some other lesser opinion of her than when they went in, because I do believe under the right script, the right director, this movie could have been a hell of a lot better. It's not anywhere near as bad as people online are saying, the grifter types, but I am not going to sit here and tell you truthfully that it's anything special.